Good morning. Good to see you all. We're great to be here at Blue Springs State Park. Little cool, but it's a very nice sunny day and beautiful backdrop here. And I'm joined by our Executive Director of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, Roger Young, our Department of Environmental Protection Secretary, Sean Hamilton, and also Dr. James Powell, Chief Zoological Officer and Executive Director of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium Research Institute. We're here today to provide good news about some good work that's been done with respect to manatees, and also just to make clear our effort in this year's budget to continue the great progress that we've had, not only on rehabilitation, rescue of manatee, not only nourishment of our springs all throughout the state, but all that we've done for environmental restoration and for clean water. Now, this state park here, Blue Springs, is famous for being a safe haven for manatees during the winter months as they seek warmer water coming from our freshwater springs that say 72 degrees year-round. In 1970, researchers identified about 14 manatees in the spring here. In 2005, after years of restoration projects, researchers counted around 200 manatees wintering here in the warm waters. This year, Blue Springs broke not just one, but two records for the number of manatees seen at the spring. On New Year's Day, there were 736 manatees gathered at the spring. On January 21st, the coldest day so far of the year, there were 932 manatees gathered at the spring. So that's the biggest record we've ever had. We've also seen a record number of manatees at the Tampa Electric Manatee Viewing Center in December, with 1,100 manatees gathering in the clean, warm waters near the power station. So these increased numbers didn't just happen by accident. A few years ago, we were experiencing significant mortality in the manatee population. This required us to act. Working with the legislature and working with our state agencies, we did take swift action, not only fund research and rescue centers, but also to make even larger investments in water quality to restore and preserve the seagrass that manatees feed on. Now, you'll hear a little bit from FWC, but the initial actions were a feeding program with both Florida Fish and Wildlife as well as U.S. Fish and Wildlife, distributing over 600,000 pounds of leafy greens. And so that was something, as the seagrass had eroded, this provided important nourishment for the manatees. And since we responded to the increase in mortality a few years ago, we've had over $40 million that have been invested for rescue and rehabilitation of the manatee population. So we've never done that much in the state of Florida, not even close. So this funding has helped rescue programs like SeaWorld save distressed manatees and rehabilitate them back to be released in the wild. And in fact, tomorrow SeaWorld will be releasing 7 manatees here at Blue Springs. And 2 of those manatees, Mary Kate and Tink Tink, were orphaned manatees that were rescued right here at Blue Springs and have now been rehabilitated. So we're excited that that's going to happen tomorrow. We've also invested over these last few years $325 million for restoration of Florida's world-renowned springs. And this is important not just, of course, for manatee habitat, but it's important for quality of life here in the state of Florida, great recreational opportunities, and we're really proud of that. And we're also nearing $2 billion invested for targeted water quality improvements all across the state of Florida. So we said coming into office in 2019 we're going to do a lot. We've not only done what we promised, we've done more than what we've promised and over-delivered on that, and that's something that's really good. And so more recently, we have increased our support and prioritization for investments in the Indian River Lagoon. which is an important waterway for of course, manatees that live on the east coast of Florida, but really an important part of the entire east coast of the state of Florida. So we have done, since 2019, $163 million to support water quality projects in the Indian River Lagoon region. Now, more recently, in December, with money that we have in this fiscal year's budget, I announced the award of $100 million dedicated to the Indian River Lagoon Protection Program, which I first proposed in our executive order last year. This is historic investment that funds 21 priority water quality projects that will reduce the amount of harmful nutrients entering the Indian River Lagoon and will help keep these waterways clean. And I'm proud to say that this work is paying off because of the recovery we have seen for the seagrass in the Indian River Lagoon, specifically in the Mosquito Lagoon area here in Volusia County. The feeding program that we've put money behind, which we were happy to do, is no longer necessary to do. You've seen a growth in seagrass, and it's working as nature intended. And it's good to be able to say that as of the rates in 2023, the manatee mortality rate was back at its lowest level since 2017. So that's really, really getting the job done. So we're going to continue the momentum on everything that we've been able to do. We're very proud of all this state has to offer. I mean, we're proud of a lot of things, of course, in terms of how the state's managed our fiscal. I tell people, you look at Washington, the national debt is $34 trillion. That's over $100,000 for every single U.S. citizen that you owe to be able to pay off that national debt. Florida, we have the lowest per capita debt of all 50 states. We've paid off 25% of the total debt just since I've been governor. And if you took the Floridian, an individual Floridian share of Florida's state debt, it wouldn't be $100,000 per person. It's about $600 per person. Not that we'd ever ask you to pony that up, but if worse came to worse, that actually could theoretically be doable. $100,000 obviously is not doable. So we're proud of that. But within that, and then we've cut taxes every year in record amounts, including $2.7 billion last year, which was huge. And 2023 calendar year, we did a toll rebate program for our commuters, saving them hundreds of dollars. We eliminated sales tax on all baby items. So anything you need for a baby, whether it's wipes, diapers, cribs, strollers, all of that is permanently tax-free in the state of Florida. And we did many other things to help small businesses and to help many people. We're proud to do that. And yet within all of that, with declining debt, budgets, California a few months ago, I was like, how are you guys doing? Like, we're doing great. It's just all my police officers want to move to Florida now because of what you're doing. And that would not have been the case, 20 years ago. So we've done a lot of support there for law and order. We've done a lot of support for education. We did $1 billion for teacher salaries in this current budget. We're going to do $1.2 billion in next year's budget that we're working with the legislature on. We have the more school choice than any place. We have all these great things that we've done with education. Higher education, we haven't raised tuition in a long time, so it's $6,300 to give or take, depending on the university, for in-state tuition. That's a lot cheaper than it is in most other places. So we're proud of doing that. And then, of course, what we've done with environment has been really meaningful, significant investments. And so it just shows you it can be done. You can do it right. So we're looking forward to working with the legislature over the balance of this legislative session. I have proposed for this coming year $330 million additional for targeted water quality improvements. That includes another $100 million for the Indian River Lagoon Protection Program's second year, as well as $9.5 million dedicated to our manatee rescue and rehabilitation protection programs. Additionally, we're calling for $50 million additional to continue to support our springs restoration throughout the state of Florida, and $55 additional million to combat harmful algal blooms and to enhance water quality monitoring. So we're continuing to do, I think, what folks want to see your government actually do things that impact our quality of life, our economy, all the things that make the state so unique. So we're happy to be here to say, I mean, there's all kinds of problems that present themselves in this world. And I look in Washington, they complain about the problems. They don't actually do anything about the problems. Here, we've had a number of things we've dealt with, but this was one. I mean, you had some serious mortality events with these manatees just a few years ago, and we decided to figure out what can we do about it. We put our money where our mouth is. You had great work by our agencies, both DEP and FWC. They did the feeding program, and now we're in a situation where things are much, much improved. So thank you for all your hard work, everybody that's been involved with this. I'm happy that this progress has been made, and we're going to continue to build off the progress going forward. Okay, I'm going to call up some folks to offer some remarks. So first, we'll have Director Roger Young from Florida Fish and Wildlife. Well, good. We're excited to see good progress. Things have definitely improved over the last few years. Took a lot of great efforts. Obviously, the money's important, but you also had folks that had a really good a good theory of the case, so to speak, about what needed to be done, not only for the feeding, but also to help with the renourishment of the native seagrass. And I think both of those have proven to be the right tack. So we're excited about that. I know we have some kids here for the field trips, and it's a good time of year to be coming to the state park. So we're open for our residents, but also people that are visiting. A lot of people know Florida. They think about a beach here or this or that. And obviously, we've got a lot of good stuff. These parks offer some really great stuff. So please take advantage of that if you're visiting. I did mention yesterday we were down in Miami Beach. We are not going to allow things in some of these pockets of Florida when spring break happens to just kind of go off the rails like it's gone on down there. That applies to anywhere in the state, anywhere that any local governments, local communities that want our assistance. We want to be there, but we've had to go into Miami Beach and help out, and we want to do that on the front end so that we're not spoiling it for everybody else, because there's a lot to see and do all throughout the state, and we want to make sure that we have a good order, public safety, and businesses are thriving, and our residents are able to enjoy being Floridians and don't have any of their freedoms impinged upon. So you can count on us to be very active as the circumstances require. We'll make sure that we're working with our local communities up and down the state of Florida. All right, with that, we got anyone in the back there? Question? Yes, sir. I have not read any of the briefs. I mean, I think what the Attorney General's position was the correct position, and I think that she's done an able job of representing the state's interest in that. Well, hold on. Anybody else? Yes. Well, I haven't seen it, but if you take a position that we're going to fly the American flag and the state of Florida flag, and that's it. It's not targeting anybody. It's basically saying that we're not going to get into this business of doing this. So I think that's totally fine. I don't think you could say you can fly any flag you want except one or two. Then I think that would be maybe a content-based discrimination. But if you say we're going to fly the U.S. flag, we're going to fly the state of Florida flag, that's what it's going to be on our public buildings. I think that's totally appropriate to be able to do. I mean, you have seen around the world our embassies flying flag. I mean, it's just absurd, some of the things that they've done. And so if the legislature just wants to say, here's what we're doing, these two, and that's that, then I don't think that there's any problem with that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, where else? Yes, sir. We have a very important, good, consequential job that we have for 3 years, and that's just the reality. So that'll be my sole focus, and I'm looking forward to it. We've already done, just in the couple weeks that we've not been doing any campaigning. I mean, we've probably done more than any governor in the country just in the last couple of weeks, and I think that's what people expect. Last year, we probably got more done than any governor's ever been able to do in 2023. And we're going to do a lot, in these next 3 years for sure. So we're excited about that. All right, anybody else? What do we got? All right, enjoy the nice day, y'all. Take care. We'll see ya. This way.
Now, I'm sure a lot of folks who tuned in to this are probably wondering, Florida Maquis, your title said Florida secession movement continuing to gain steam. But that particular press conference was the governor talking about manatees and saving manatees, and then going over some basic things about Florida. What does this have to do with secession? Well, the idea that a state has an entirely different set of priorities now than all of the other states is indication that we're going our own way. And we're setting our own priorities and setting our own agenda. Now, does that sound familiar? I brought this picture back up from way back in 2020 to remind people when Florida decided to go its own way, when even places like, the Dakotas and Texas and all these other so-called patriot states were falling into line, or they were compromising. See, we didn't compromise. That's kind of the whole Florida man thing, the whole idea that people have loved to make fun of Florida over the years. You see if I can get the camera angle straight here now. Secession withdraws the state out of the reach of the usurped powers. Usurped powers, meaning power to, say, set the agenda as to what the most important thing to talk about is. Now, I'm probably going to make some folks a little bit annoyed. But when you have someone in your sphere that is not doing what they're supposed to do, you're not doing them any favors by mollycoddling them. When you got somebody, especially you guys out there who've been part of the military or part of a military-like group, when you have somebody who's not passing muster, so to speak, who's not coming up to the standard, you can't hold their hand. You got to tell it like it is. And I want to ask an honest-to-God question. I really do. Why in the hell does Texas need any help from Florida securing its own border? Now, you can whine and cry about, well, DC's this, DC's that, DC's the other. Florida doesn't maintain this position that law and order in our state is hinging upon the operations of the Coast Guard. You see, there's a reason, and I want to show this. You see, they say, well, Texas borders Mexico directly. Well, Florida is, who remembers the boat people coming from Cuba? It is not that far, and it is not that hard to cross from Cuba over to the Keys, over to Miami. It's really not that hard, honestly, to go from Mexico here across the Gulf of Mexico. Why aren't these invaders hopping on boats and coming to Florida? I think we all know why. I do. I think we all know why. And they've even said it. They're afraid of Florida. Texas, they're not afraid of you. I'm just going to say it out loud. Texas, for all of your talk about guns, for all of your talk about patriotism, and all of your talk about, wanting to be free and independent, liberty, and all this Constitution stuff, they're not afraid of you. They're afraid of us. They're terrified of Florida. See, I put this up as the thumbnail because I thought it was appropriate. Something George Washington said, a free people not only be armed and disciplined, but they should have sufficient arms and ammunition to maintain a status of independence from any who might attempt to abuse them, which would include their own government. Now, this is only half the equation. This is only half of the equation. Wait a minute, Maquis. What are you talking about? What? You see, you can have weapons all you want. In fact, here's a CBS article, CBS News. Gun ownership by state. Texas, 45.7% of adults say they live in homes with guns. Here's a picture of some millennial with his beard and his baggy jeans, who's taken some. It doesn't even look like a real weapon. Honestly, if you look, it looks like a BB gun that he put a Texas flag on. See, they want to be seen as. How many of you out there from my Patreon channel who understand PSYOPs remember the concept of being seen as doing something as opposed to just actually doing something? See, this is Texas's problem. They want to have the appearances of being patriots. They want to have the appearances of, same thing with Tennessee. Texas, Tennessee, Missouri. They want to have the appearances of being patriots. They want to be looked at like somebody that should be. But when it comes to actually doing something, you see, they fall short. They're not afraid of you. Now, number 2 is Florida. An estimated 35.3% of adults in Florida live in homes with guns. Now, what's the difference? What's the difference between Florida and Texas? The difference between Florida and Texas is this, and this is where I'm really going to make some folks mad. Those of you at the Patreon channel recognize this image. Okay? It was a series of videos I did talking about shit hits the fan, apocalypse, end of the world, grid down. A lot of ladies saying, I don't feel safe. What can I do to make my life safer? I said, well, the first thing you can do is find a man to put in your life that maybe is from outside your comfort zone age-wise, on the older side. Why? You see, the difference between Florida and Texas is this. We have a lot of old folks down here. And they're is broken when it comes to home invaders, when it comes to border invasion, when it comes to criminals, when it comes to trespassers. They don't care. When these guys get rocked out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, by the way, which is early for those types, and they got to go pick up a weapon because somebody heard a bump downstairs. Well, I shouldn't say downstairs. There's no downstairs in Florida. A bump out in the front room. They're going to shoot first and ask questions later. That's the difference. That is the difference. Hold on one second. I have no idea why that got held. I'm just checking my chat here real quick. That's the difference. That is the difference. Those of you who'd like to sign up over Patreon, by the way, real quick, $1. That's all it costs. $1 per month. Even less if you sign up for an entire year, fully refundable. You guys know the shtick. We cover it all the time. But it's important, I think, to look at in a serious way. I don't think criminals from anywhere in the world that are coming here are afraid of Governor Abbott. Congratulations, Jane. Found a good older vet. I don't think they're afraid. I don't think they're afraid of Governor Abbott or what he's going to do. However, I completely believe 100% that criminals from around the world, wherever they're from, South America or otherwise, that they are terrified of Governor DeSantis and Florida law enforcement. And there was even an article that came out, and it was on, I believe it was CNN or MSNBC, where somebody came on and said that there's this problem now where all of these criminals, all these thugs, all these gangs, they're going to places like Oregon and California and Detroit and Minneapolis and Chicago and New York. And because the laws there are so lax, they can steal enough stuff that it pays for their trip to Florida, where people actually have money to buy that stuff, and they can turn a profit selling it down here. See, they won't steal it down here because they're terrified of getting arrested, getting thrown in jail and left there. That's why they steal it other places. And I'm sorry if it's hard to hear, Texans. I'm sorry if it's hard to hear. But right now, the fact that you need Florida to send 24 boats, law enforcement, our military, our militia. We're happy to do it. But it doesn't say a lot, honest to God, for your ability to intimidate these people. You need to start learning how to intimidate people, and sometimes that means doing things that are unpopular. This guy did all sorts of things that were wildly unpopular with the vast majority of people living in the colonies back in the 1700s. Let me say this again. How many people have seen the 3%ers? How many of you out there in my audience know who the 3%ers are? They have the little Roman numeral 3 on their hats. You know what they're talking about? They're talking about the Revolutionary War, where only 3% of the population actually did anything. So what does that mean? People like Washington, the Founding Fathers, had massive amounts of people that weren't all that excited about having a divorce from England. So he was doing things that he believed in his heart were true and right, but were wildly unpopular. This might be the first Florida man ever. And I know it's a lot of people look at a picture like this and it's cringe. You know, they're like, oh, I can't imagine, 40, 45, and 60, 65, 70 years old. President Trump is what, 26? President Trump, Melania Trump is my age. Melania Trump and I are only like 2 weeks apart in birthday. I think I'm like 2 weeks older than she is. And President Trump is pushing 80. So the picture I have here, I don't think there's even that much difference age-wise between these two individuals. So, but when you talk about that, in the context of Florida, people like, that's something they roll their eyes at. But that's what happens when you have a place where people don't give a fuck. They go with what works. They go with what gets the job done. And that's why we have Governor DeSantis. And that's why the criminals are afraid of Florida. The criminals are afraid of coming here. Because we fix problems. So, anyway, I know the live with the governor wasn't very long, but it's indicative of moving on. It's indicative of the idea of going your own way and setting your own priorities and setting your own agenda. I typed in the comments about, you don't hear Texas talking about, tourism. You don't hear the governor of Texas coming out and talking about, oh my gosh, it's so great. Come to Texas. We have this and this and this and this. And there are a lot of nice things in Texas. But what's the real issue is that somebody else is setting the agenda for Texas. And Texas is in react mode. Not here in Florida. There'd be people that would love to go on and on and on about how, the governor, tried to run for president and, now he's not. Not on the agenda. Not on the agenda in the least. We've defeated Disney. They lost their lawsuit against us. The CDC doesn't try. Biden doesn't try. Fauci's gone. We have our own standards, our own way of doing things. And that's the law of the land here. And that's why people are continuing to roll in in big numbers. And they displace people that are deadbeats. That's kind of the hard truth too. We have police officers coming here from all over the country, but we've also got them coming here from Texas and from Tennessee and from Missouri and from other places saying, look, it's just better. We're allowed to do our job down here. We are allowed to do our job down here. And it's, some people call it a negative. I don't. But if you could possibly construe some negative of living in Florida, other than things are a little bit pricey because of the demand, capitalism confirmed, by the way. The one thing that a lot of people have a hard time grasping is if you get crossways with the law down here. And I don't mean you get a one random one-off DUI or something, or you get a speeding ticket or something like that. If you do something really wrong down here, especially if it's involved drugs, you might as well pack up and leave. You might as well pack up and leave. You're not going to get a job. You're not going to get a job. You're not going to get hired. You are going to be part of the system. And it's going to cost you a ton. So thanks for being here, Paul. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone who's here, by the way. Not going to waste a whole lot of your time today. Just wanted to cover this, that when you see a state setting its own agenda, moving forward, talking about manatees, talking about water restoration, talking about the hot springs, talking about things that are important to Floridians. Important to Floridians. And Carla, I understand what you're saying about having guns or being able to even produce or fix guns. But when you don't have a population willing to use them, which is really the goal. See, that's the PSYOP part. Those of you that want to get read in on PSYOPs, you can give, I've said this before and a lot of people take issue with it. I don't care if you own 20 guns. I don't care if all you do with your guns all day long is go to the range and you, put up pictures on Facebook and all these you make memes and all this crap. And you go to every pew-pew show around. There's a lot of guys like that don't got the nuts to use them. When it really matters, they don't have the nuts to actually use them. And people can smell that. Because down here, if somebody uses, we have sheriffs. How many remember this? I know Flowers will for sure, and quite a few others that have been to my lives. How many of you remember the press conference with the Governor Grady? Listen to me, he could be governor. Sheriff Grady out of Polk County, where he said on no uncertain terms that he wants every single one of his constituents to be armed, and if anybody enters their home with malintent, that he wants them to, quote-unquote, blow them back out of their house. That nothing bad will happen to them. See, that's the thing. The citizens down here, all the old folks, they know nothing bad is going to happen to them. They're going to sleep in their own bed that night if they take up arms against a criminal. They're going to fill out a couple pieces of paper, they're signing this, that, and the other, and they're going to sleep in their own bed that night. They're not going to get arrested. The law is not going to come after them. The government's not going to come after them. The left is not going to come after them if they defend themselves. And the criminals know this. You would have to be some special kind of stupid down here as a criminal to go around at night and try to get into people's houses. Forget dogs. Forget getting, tuned up by a pit bull. You're not even going to hear click. You're not going to hear anybody rack a shotgun at you. You might, as you hit the floor, hear a bang. You might. And that'll be the end of it. And they're just going to put you in a bag, zip it up, and take you down to the corner. Okay, they're not... The old folks down here, and I don't care if it makes anybody mad. We're at the end anyway. I don't care how many people it makes mad. Ladies, I'm going to tell you right now, if you see what's coming to this country, and I know the dating pool is a little bit kind of sparse right now, expand your horizons. If you want to feel safe, you want to have a guy in your life that you know will have absolutely no problem picking up a gun and using it. Aim for late Gen X, early boomer, meaning born 1960, I would say 60 to 70, 1960 to 1970 or earlier. I would say at the very latest, 1975. That should be the birthday year that you're looking for. No younger. It's just the way it is. Because when it's going to come down to brass tacks, I know there's going to be a lot of other parts of life that might be not as fun. But when it comes to safety and it comes to getting taken care of, that's what you need to be aiming for. So, and we've already had one person here, that Jane Smith said that, she took that advice. I had a couple of others that came to my Patreon channel when we did. It was a 4-part series, by the way. It was a 4-part series we did at Patreon. We did 4 parts for survival. at Patreon. Sorry about this. 1 second here. There we go. Oops. Doing lives and controlling the camera, the kind of the bane of my existence here. And some of the more unorthodox advice that comes to mind when it comes to survival. I know a lot of people they got the whole beans, bullets, and Band-Aids things down. They're like, well, I've got this all stockpiled, I've got that all stockpiled, and I've got all this other stockpiled. If you don't have control of your mind, during a grid down, power down, end of the world, apocalypse type of situation, I don't care what you have stockpiled. I don't care how many times you've been to the range. I don't care how good your trigger discipline is. When it comes to where the rubber meets the road, it's going to be about what control you have over your mind. And if you're still stuck in, I wonder what people will think of me if mode, I have to imagine where would we be in Florida if Governor DeSantis had that mentality? Well, gosh, I only barely won that election over this other guy, I forget who the guy was now. I can't remember his name. Gillum. So that means I better do things to appease, those on the other side because I care about what they think about me. Where would Florida be right now if we had a governor that had done that? And Texas, don't mean to keep picking on you, but gosh, I just can't. I got this sinking feeling that this Abbott guy, that goes through his head. Amen, flowers. I can't imagine having gone through the pandemic anywhere else. That this guy has this need to be liked. This Governor Abbott, he's got this need to be liked. And you can do as many photo ops like this as you want. But one thing you learn as a soldier, especially I was an Army interrogator, you have to get over the idea of being liked or respected by everyone you're around. You do your job. A lot of people like to make fun of Army intelligence. They like to, denigrate those in the intelligence services, especially those of us that have some more of the unsavory jobs in the military. You just got to get over it. You just have to get over it. Because right now we have a government that has usurped powers that are not theirs to have. And people are just rolling over and letting it happen. This border thing is just a symptom of it. It's just a symptom. Why do you think they didn't impeach Mayorkas? Why do you think they didn't impeach Mayorkas yesterday? It's real simple. They want the issue. They want the issue. Florida wants solutions. And that's the difference. That's the difference. Florida wants solutions, and we're going to do what solves the problem, popular or not. That's why you don't see them in, who remembers, how long ago was it? The boat people, all of the boat people coming from Cuba. It was every day, huge boats full of people, hopping on boats from Cuba and coming across the straits. They don't do that no more. You would think it would be easier, right? You would think it would be easier that they could somehow even get to the Bahamas. Think about the trek. If you're coming from South America, let's say you're coming from somewhere down here in South America, and you want to get to the United States, and you've got to go through all these places. It's not hard to get from the Yucatan over to Cuba. Look at all of what you would miss. You would miss almost all of this just to get up to Texas. Why not go this? Because they know Florida is no longer door open place. They know this. They know that if they get to Florida, they're not going to be there very long. And if they get to Florida and somehow they do avoid law enforcement, they've got to deal with an armed populace that not only is an armed populace, but it's an armed populace of people that has absolutely no problem using those weapons in their own self-defense, and they have the backing of law enforcement, which has the backing of the government in said activity. They ain't gonna get away with it. Elian Gonzalez, that's right, Carla Costin, yeah. Elian Gonzalez. That was back in the 90s, back during the Clinton era. So I guess I'll leave it there. So that's what this was about. I know it's like you look at a video like that, it's like, it's just about manatees. It's just about manatees. It's more than manatees. It's the idea of Florida setting its own agenda, moving forward in a way that's important and a blessing to the people of Florida first. The people of Florida come first. And I'll leave it there. Pardon me. Sorry about that. As always, love to have you over at Patreon. Got the link down in the description. Could sure use your support these days. They don't like, the folks that run this platform don't like this topic. So I will leave it there. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.